Hello, St. Thomas Academy, and welcome to the Cadet Football Show. I'm your host, Mike Maxwell, and to my left is our head football coach, Travis Walch. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, great win on Friday night. Congratulations on that and your first section championship. A beautiful night for football, by the way. It was, it couldn't have been any better. Again, section championship, the victory over Bloomington Jefferson, final score 43-14. Give us your thoughts on the game.
Playoff football. People ask me all week, how you feeling? I kept saying nervous. It sat with me a little bit differently, and maybe it's just because it was my, personally, first time we were going to be in a championship type game like that. But you have to learn to take everything in stride at some point when you're doing this, and there's a lot of other things that start popping up in your week. We need this roster, we need that, and thankfully we have a staff that helps out doing a lot of that stuff. But it is pretty daunting at times when these other requests start coming in when you're used to a routine. So yeah, it was a little bit different for all of us, I think. But with regards to the game, I'm just happy that we continue to come out and get off to hot starts, and it's easier to call a game. I think it's easier for everyone to settle down, and I'm not just saying, 2 weeks ago, Two Rivers scored first, but I'm saying you can look up the scoreboard after the first quarter and go, all right, we're on track. These things are going the way that we thought they would, and we haven't seen that 2-score deficit or anything like that yet. So overall, I think it's allowed us all to just settle in a little bit earlier in games, and I think that was kind of the theme again the other night.
Yeah, for sure. I thought your defense played really well. They came up with some key stops against Jefferson when they were actually moving the ball. The one in particular was right at the end of the first half. They were at the 4-yard line, I believe. Andrew Most came up with a huge interception right there, and he came in for the injured Hank Stevican, and I guess you could say he made the most of his opportunity, right? Sorry, bad dad joke there. Who else defensively stood out for you?
Well, I think when you look back on all of the games that we've won, we can say our defense was opportunistic. I think back to Armstrong. It's the game that stands out to me. Good team. Won their section championship the other night. They're going to state. And you say, well, what was the difference in that game? Both offenses were moving the ball, but our defense found a way in the red zone to turn some things away. And the same thing happened the other night there. Avon Dorval had a huge play. It was just such a neat play because we teach our guys all the time, when you're trying to punch a ball out, you need to use a fist. And most people around the NFL networks would call it the Peanut Tillman punch out because he kind of made it famous. Okay. And you actually call the drill the Peanut Tillman. And Avon just had a beautiful play where he disengaged from a block, and in the process of tackling also brought that big old hand down and just wham, and just cleanly knocked it out. So that one stood out to me. But more than anything, we fit up things well. We kept things in front of us. Nothing was over the top. There weren't a lot of big plays. You make them reset it and go another 10 yards. And that's what our defense did well. And I think if you're looking on the other side of it, Jefferson probably would have said, we contained Savion, contained their runners kind of, but now the big plays came in the pass game, right? And if we can stay on that track, and Owatonna, we start watching them, and I know we'll get on to Owatonna, but when you watch the way they score on offense, it is the same way we scored on offense the other night. It is big chunk pass plays, guy kind of moving around, and so that is going to be the same task we've had for all of these games. And if you said, well, in the games that we lost, what weren't we able to do? It was probably the same theme of we weren't opportunistic enough. We weren't able to continue drives on offense. We maybe had a penalty against a better team that slowed us down. So a lot of times I'm just a big believer. There's a reason you play the way you do, and a lot of it has to do with the stress of the team that you're going against. What kind of stressors can they put on you because of the level of play and the level of coaching? And just happy to be on this side of it this week. I thought our coaches did a phenomenal job. I thought our kids had a nice build throughout the week. It wasn't our best practice week, But it was a nice build to the point where we knew we had to get ready to roll, and Thursday was a good day for us.
Got it. Good. So offensively, we continue to roll. We outpaced our points per game by 6. Savion, another productive day. 19 carries, an almost human 138 yards, right? So, but 3 TDs. He has now over 1,900 yards for the season in 29 TDs. Great season continues. And of course, Nico Vargas continues his recent surge, getting 52 yards on 8 carries. Total rushing yards, 193. And I bring up the total yards not because not very often, if ever, do we see the passing game exceed our running game.
I didn't know it did.
It did. So Maximus was a nearly perfect 8 for 9. 225 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns, all to Luke Dobbs. So pretty great day. Those two continue their magic, if you will. So on the passing side, do you think this is a bit of a new trend we see happening here, where the passing game is now becoming as strong as the run game?
Well, I think a couple weeks ago you said, we had a unique game where we had about the same amount of rushing yards and passing yards. And a lot of people say, you're a run team or a pass team. And in a perfect world, I would love our yards per game to be about even.
Okay.
But what you realize is you can rush for 5 yards a carry, and thankfully we've been rushing for more than that. But when you're throwing for 13 yards a completion, you don't need to do it as much, right? So
yep.
I just love the fact, more than anything, I like the 8 of 9. Efficient.
Yeah.
Calling them at the right time. Don't have to call 20 of them. They're called at the right time. I don't know what the average is in there. You have 9 for 200. So yeah, you're talking about 20 yards a catch. That makes me feel pretty good. And now, we got 3 weeks in a row now where I think Max has been 70%, 68%, and now, upwards of 85 to 90%. So that is what stands out to me more than anything.
But I think the other thing that I see is the ability to it gives the other team some pause. They don't know if you're going to run at them or going to pass, and being effective through the air, I think changes us in a really good way, because the other team has no idea what's coming.
Yeah, Luke does a really good job, and Chad has done a really good job, Coach Marks and Coach Abbott, of mixing it in when we need it. And I think, the other thing I have to bring up is, you hear all the time, in order to throw well, you need to be able to run the ball well. It's hard to do it the other way around.
Yeah.
And in order to run it well, you better have some pretty good blockers up front. And not only are we good run blocking, offensive line, sometimes you can have just a really great run offense, but it doesn't equate to kids that can also pass block. Right. So part of it is we don't do a lot of drop back. Most of what we do is faking off our run game, but we have O-line guys that can do both, and Coach Abbott does a really good job, along with Coach Lepshy, with our tight ends, of having to pass pro. And it's nice when Max can set his feet, because he I said it maybe as early on we started doing these shows, he's as good a thrower as anyone in the state. Our goal from the start was, will they look at him at the end of the year and say, not only is he one of the best throwers in the state, is he one of the best quarterbacks in the state? And that is where I think he is really moving towards right now. It'd be hard to argue against him. Maybe not from a stat line over a course of a year. We were growing, we were trying to get better. But if you take his stat line from the last 3 weeks, I've got to imagine he's going to be right there in efficiency and yards per throw and all that stuff. Yeah. And he is really smart from a football IQ standpoint, and there are times where we're not perfect as coaches, and he's running out there and he kind of looks back at us, did you mean this? Yep, we meant that. So that goes along. So when I talk about being a quarterback, not just the throwing, it's can you get us out of bad situations occasionally if we put you in one. And he manages the game really well.
Yeah. Well, and I think you've seen over the last 3 to 4 weeks his ability to lead the team has grown significantly.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's just, again, that's from the cheap seats, but that's what I'm seeing. Let's shift gears just a bit. How's our health? I know I mentioned Hank Stevican before. Are we in a pretty good spot?
I think I've said this a couple times. We haven't been injured that much in the field. An occasional concussion. Really good news. We were able to get Brendan Gerber back last week.
Yeah, that
so
was good to see.
he started practicing. He went through everything he needed to do to be ready to go again, and we were able to get him a fair amount of reps last week. And we're hoping, the goal was, let's get you through a game and let's see what the response is, and what a really nice push he gave us on the D line. And I know everyone's going D line. He was an offensive lineman, and Brendan's just a really good athlete, and he's a big kid, and we had a need, and we moved him there to get more depth with Hunter Carver out. Yeah. And but we're hoping there's a possibility his role could expand to help our team in other ways now that we got through the week. Other than that, there may be some nicks, but it's no one significant right now. Going into the practice week, we feel like we're going to have everyone ready to go.
That is awesome and very good news. So let's talk about the MVPs of the game. How about the Scout of the Week?
So Scout of the Week, we actually put a little stress on him this week, even though he wanted to move to this position. But Emmett O'Keefe, we moved this week to inside linebacker, and it's something that I think he wanted to do. And we were really light at D-line throughout the year, especially when Hunter left. And we have, reasonably, one athlete a week will come in and say, I'd really like to move. I'd like to try something else. And at some point, in different times in the years, those windows open based on the health of our whole group, sure. And maybe we don't have health in another group. And so not only did he move there, but he had to play the scout inside linebacker stuff, which he just picked up this week, which is a little easier to do because you're looking at a card, right? Right. But then he also had to flip back over and do some offensive line stuff for us. And we threw him in the situation the other night. Like, I don't want to punt at the end of the game with twos. I'd rather just run a play and really... Yeah. But I was consulting with a couple guys. I didn't want it to look bad for the other team that were going for it on fourth down. Yep. So you got to balance all that stuff. For sure. And we're standing around and we're like, well, we don't want to put Max out there. And Emmett had done some punting last year as well. So he ran out there and probably made one of the plays of the game. I mean, the ball goes sailing over his head. And we always tell our punters, if you can punt it, still punt it. Because at our level, unlike the pros, guys can be downfield after the punt. Where in the pros, you can't, except for your gunners. So... and overall throughout the year, I know that he's wanted to do different things. He's helped our team, and he's done it for the betterment of the group. Yeah. And it's good that he also got rewarded. He had a really good pick and really nice interception last week as well in practice. So those things, we need those people challenging guys like Max across the ball to see different looks.
For sure. So, all right. That's good. How about the Cadet Award?
Part of being the cadet is doing all the things I just mentioned with Emmett, but it's also, especially at this position of line, when you go unnoticed for a whole year in terms of not bad things aren't happening at your position. Right. And I say this, he probably could have gotten this award before, but he is just so steady. And just as a person and as a player, he's just steady. And you just can't have enough of those guys. You never get a peep from him. There's never a complaint from him. If he says something, it's probably something really positive. But Isaac Wagner, and he has been, we almost lost him 2 weeks ago in a weightlifting accident where he threw the bar down after a clean, and it managed to pop right back up and hit him square in the thumb, and his thumb just basically went crack. So right here, it just broke. Wow. And it was a deal where we thought it was going to be a week minimum before they could get him in. And then thankfully, Cole knows people who knows people. We got him in early. We got him back for the Bloomington Jefferson game. And he kind of did the old, it's fine. It's not a big deal, even though it was kind of, I was like, I can play. It's not going to be, like, what's the big deal? And it's just kind of who he is. So very workmanlike and very steady.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about on offense?
Luke Dobbs, and again, it could be Max, it could be Luke, but Luke, I think got it 2 weeks ago. To have that type of day as a receiver, I'm not. You would probably know better than I. It might be a historic day as a wide receiver at STA. I have no idea where it all ranks, but it was just really good for Max. But as a receiver to be able to do that and then do the blocking and the punt returning. Oh, by the way, we threw him over at DB this week. We're really trying to take our O&D and mesh them now and say, we got to get as deep as we can at every position because you just don't know. Yeah. And as the talent rises, if one guy goes down, we might not have a 3 or 4 you can just plug in at the same athletic level. So we're starting to do more of that, and he was a big part of that.
Yep. Awesome. How about on defense?
Charlie Probst, just really dynamic and fast, and he graded out well, and his production was high as well. And there's been some weeks, matchup-wise, it's tough when you're an outside linebacker. Sometimes you see a team that wants to line up and just mash you. And as an outside linebacker, you're playing a 6'5", 250-pound tight end. Right. Then the next week, you got guys running all over the place, and they're in spread, and there's receivers everywhere, and then you're out in space, and you have to do something completely different. Right. For a lot of the other position groups, it doesn't change that much. But for our outside linebackers, weekly, you have that matchup that could be completely different. And he just continues to be able to handle most of those situations really well. And it's not easy. Our outside linebackers probably get as much put on them as anyone. And he's been our best this year.
All right. Good. How about on special teams?
Another unique one, but just our extra point team in general. We've struggled is a tough word to use because we were 87%, okay? And you'd love to be 100%. We had 2 of them blocked. We had 1 miss. So I say all the time with that unit, there's a lot of things that need to happen. You need to snap on time. You need protection. You need the hold. You need the snap. You need the kick. You need it all. So there's a lot more to it. But the team in general, I think I told you last week, we kind of retooled how we were practicing for the stretch run, and we've reinvested more time into our special teams. That's been a big part of it. I said from early on, that one play is worth 1 full point. And I don't know what we're averaging now, but for points per game. But I'm assuming if you look at our total amount of plays per game and the points we're averaging, it's less than 1 point per game. And I continue to say when that unit goes out there, we're getting 1 point for 1 play or 3 points for 1 play. There's not many other plays we get that. So
yep, for sure.
As a whole, extra point team, and we still need a lot of work on it. We're still working really hard to get a 1/4 of a second better, a 1/10 of a second better is all the difference in the world when it comes to a fingertip touching that ball and taking it off track.
Yep, for sure. Good stuff there. So, Coach, you're 8-2 on the season now. You got a section championship under your belt, and move into the state quarterfinals, where we will face a somewhat familiar foe in Owatonna. We of course played them in the state championship a few years ago, and then played them the following year in a quarterfinal round again in the same place where we're playing them on Saturday. They are also 8-2. Their 2 losses come at the hands of Chan and Mankato West, at least of the last ranking. We're 1-2 in the state. They won the Section 1 championship, beating Northfield 35-6. What can you tell us about Owatonna?
Well, 2 losses, right? We have 2 losses, and I think it's a good time to remind our whole community that when you're not losing elimination games, it's not the end of the world, and it can serve as a really good. If you use it right, it can be a really good process for growth. And would I have loved to beat Andover? Yep, and Chaska, yes. Those losses force you to look at things differently. It's not that we don't look at those things when we win as well, but it's another great reminder that I'm sure Coach Williams right now is saying, I'm really glad we played West and we played Chan, knowing that we're going to play STA this week, because we have some things that will remind you of Chan. And Owatonna has some things that will remind me of Chan and West.
For sure.
And some of the things they do and the games that we lost over in Chaska. So, excuse you. So, I grew up in southern Minnesota. Owatonna football has been good for, I can't tell you how many years back. And
long time.
Staple of the community is we're tough, and we're going to come after you, and we're going to be good defensively, and we're going to run the football. That's what I remember of it for years. What they have done a little bit differently, and Coach Williams does as good a job of anyone of using the personnel he has. He's got a quarterback that can throw it. He's got some guys that can really scoot on the outside. I don't think you're ever going to watch a game and go, they're not clearly trying to run the football and be a power running team, but they've also been a little bit more adaptable. And I reflect, I'm not going to share the whole story, but I reflect on a conversation I had with Coach Williams 10 years ago when I was recruiting there. And the basis of the story was, as college football evolves into seeing more wide receivers, and high school kids start going, well, I want to do that. I don't want to line up as a tight end or a fullback anymore. I want to be out there catching the ball. Yep. And we've seen this metamorphosis a little bit through all of the state. And all of the coaches at some point have to identify, well, yes, I understand what's on Saturday, college football, but that might not be the recipe for winning high school football games. But you still want that balance of making sure you get those really good basketball and track athletes out, right? Mm-hmm. So he does as good a job as anyone. They're going to be tough. We've watched a ton of film on him already. I see things even as deep in all the special teams. I mean, he's been there for, I want to say it's over 25 years. It's probably more like 30. I feel like I was in high school when he made the transition. I remember his dad, Snuffy Williams, was at Rochester John Marshall. Longtime head coach there. Yeah. When I was growing up just out of Rochester. So I remember Snuffy's team, 94, 95, 96 with the John Marshall Rockets going to state. I think Jeff was an assistant on some of those teams and then ended up transitioning over to Owatonna. So I go way back with Coach Williams. He's just he's a really awesome guy. They're really well coached. I know they have a staff in place that's been there for years. And much like us, if you look through their staff, you're going to see Owatonna grads there because they're proud and they want to come back and serve and be a part of what they got to be a part of. So
absolutely. The couple things that I noticed, just a little bit of the film that I watched, the quarterback, as you mentioned, is pretty solid. He can evade the rush pretty well. Number 3 seems to be kind of an all-purpose player who can cause problems from a number of spots. He also plays defense pretty well. I thought number 33, their main running back, was pretty solid as well. So anybody else got you concerned or?
They use their tight end on both sides of the ball. He's a nice presence. They got the inside linebacker we really think is good. But number 3 is the type of kid that just keeps you up at night. Right? You just said you can be right in everything that you did on the play, and he is just, it's probably the same way a lot of people look at Savion, right? Mm-hmm. And Nico's getting into that realm as well in terms of ball in hand type. Yeah. You can be everywhere you want to be with this kid, and you better have a backup plan and a couple extra guys running there because he runs as smoothly and as beautifully as anyone I've seen in a long time. I mean, he glides and he'll high point and he'll make people miss, and then he's the same kid coming up out of the alley and just smoking someone on defense. So he's special. Yeah, he's a really good one.
Yep. Well, it's going to be a fun day, and I look forward to watching our boys and seeing how they do. So, Coach, thanks for taking some time to talk cadet football today. Our cadets will play the Owatonna Huskies in a state quarterfinal matchup on Saturday. Kickoff is scheduled for noon at Woodbury High School. We will have ticket and broadcast information below for you. The video broadcast is controlled by the high school league, so it will be a pay-per-view event through NSPN TV. Just want to make a warning on that, where Cadet Broadcast is not able to do the video broadcast on that. Our next show, we will break down the state quarterfinal game versus Owatonna, and hopefully be looking forward to a state semifinal game at US Bank Stadium versus either Rogers or Alexandria. Until then, thanks for watching, and go Cadets.